Hey everyone, Canadian Sergeant Steele here, and today I want to talk to you about the mightiest vehicle in the Astra Militarum. You're right, the Cyclops. So this is my first unit review in quite some time, but I'm very excited to get back to this and to talk to you today now that I'm back from Adepticon and to review one of the coolest units in the Astra Militarum, despite its diminutive size, and it's the Cyclops Demolition vehicle. So let's jump right into it. This unit is movement 8 inches, toughness 4, 3 up save, 4 wounds, leadership 8, no OC. Okay, so it's a decent movement, mad toughness, decent save, okay wounds vehicle. This is with extremely low points costs too, currently. So as of the recording of this video, Cyclops Demolition vehicle is 25 points for that profile. Okay, that's really not bad. You're not going to get a character, you're not going to get an infantry unit that cheap with that kind of a profile. So that already makes it pretty decent. The downside is it has no OC, so you're not capturing any objectives with this without the duty and honor order, which could happen. So how do you kind of work with this? How do you use this unit then? Well, here's what you're also going to find interesting. It has no melee, and it has no shooting attacks. Well, wait a minute, Canadian Sergeant Steele. What do you mean? What do you mean? This thing has no shooting weapons, no melee attacks, but you're telling me we should consider taking it? And oh, yes. And for not the reasons you might even expect. But let's talk about its unit abilities first. So it does have Deadly Demise 1. So it does 1 mortal wound when it blows up. But it has an ability called Unstoppable Payload. And what that allows you to do is instead of on a 6, you do your Deadly Demise on a 4+. Okay, so on a 4+, you're guaranteed to do 1 mortal wound to every unit within 6 inches. Right? That's not going to change the world. That's not likely going to win you your games, but it is a thing, and it does exist. Okay, so you could do that. What really starts to set this apart is its unit ability. It's truly unique, the other unique one, which is called Demolition Charges. So pay attention to this wording, because this is very important. Each time this model or an enemy unit ends a move, if this model is within 3 inches of 1 or more enemy units, select one of those enemy units. This model is destroyed, and instead of doing Deadly Demise, roll 1d6. On a 2 to 5, you deal d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, you do d6 mortal wounds. So on a 1, it does nothing. Okay. That's pretty neat. So this thing is a little tiny, super cheap, easily hideable, maneuverable mortal wound buggy. That in itself is fun. And that is already a blast to be working with here. So you could use this as a minor threat to just scoot around the board and hide in places, pop out, and deal mortal wounds to your opponent. Including, this is why I said pay attention to the wording, on their turn. It's whenever they can also end a move, if they do end a move within 3 inches of this unit, you can choose to destroy it and use that ability and deal mortal wounds to them. So that is really, really cool. However, in the current meta of the game, that is not why most people take Cyclopses. They instead use them for other reasons. Provided if you just thought about that profile at all that I just discussed, that's not a game changer, right? For 25 points, it's not a bad deal. It's going to do some damage. But is it going to win you games? No. It's going to create some little bit of threats here and there? Sure. I imagine even if you hit 3 of these, maximum you can take in a standard list behind a wall, your opponent drives up to it. Okay. You're going to average 4.5 mortal wounds, 5 mortal wounds. I mean, that's nothing to scoff at. That's nothing. That's going to hurt. But it's not even going to wipe out a unit of intercessors. Not even a 5-man unit. It is going to deal some damage, but it's not going to change the game, but it is going to be a threat. So what people actually do with these is, because they are so darn cheap, they're currently the cheapest thing in the Astra Militarum. You take this and either you hide it at the beginning of the game behind terrain, right? Shows you how easy that is. You hide it behind terrain and you drive it around as just a little threat. You just keep it hidden behind corners. You just tuck it behind things, right? Look at that. Look at how that just tucks into places, and you leave it there as a little threat. You drive it around with 8 inches of movement. You can get pretty far, and then there's nothing that says you can't advance this unit and still use its ability, because it's any time it ends a move. So you could advance this unit as well, give it that extra d6 inches of movement. So you could go from 8 to a minimum of 9 and up to 14 inches of movement. That's not bad. If you wanted to enhance its movement even more, you can put this, surprisingly, inside of a transport. It takes up the space of 7 models. So, okay, in a Chimera, you're not going to be able to take more than 1. In a Crassus or Stormlord, you could take 3. So if you did have a Chimera, all right, you had this inside of it, and it disembarks, it's 3 inches out, and then it does 8 inches of regular movement, and then you could technically advance it in the turn at which it got out of the Chimera. So already we were at 11 inches there, and you could add a potential another 7 inches. So you could get 18 inches away from your transport, potentially. Guaranteed 12 inches out if you advance and roll 1, with disembarking and moving from your transport, and then explode. And there's nothing your opponent can do about it. Unless they have some shenanigan where they can move out of the way before you can resolve your ability, there's nothing they can do about it. That's pretty cool. But most of the time, this is taken as a way to secure secondaries in the Tyrannic War missions. That's really where this comes in as a strategic unit that makes a difference. This unit is so small that if your opponent does not screen it out, you could easily squeeze this in for investigate signals, or capture the table quarters, or whatever objective you may have behind enemy lines, and this model can easily do it. And it's not very visible either, so you can hide it behind really small things, pipes even, small walls, and then your opponent may not be able to shoot at it to get rid of it if you've hidden it behind terrain. That makes this a great unit to be able to get in, get your secondary objectives, and also, they may not even find it worth the time and worth the unit dedication to get rid of this, right? Like, to come around here just to take out a 4 wound model with a 3-up save, that's hardly any threat to them. They're not gonna usually spend the time to do that. The only downside of this unit is that it cannot capture objectives without support. So one of the things about this is it does not have the squadron keyword. That means no go. You cannot issue it tank orders. Cannot issue it orders from a tank commander. So, all right, we could try that. That's not going to work. You're still not capturing objectives. So the only workaround is Lord Solar Leontis, and you could technically give this unit duty and honor. Now, given the number of things in the Guard that are super good at capturing objectives, why would you do that? I don't see it, other than because this unit is so easily hidden that you would use Leontis that way and take this unit and shuffle it up. But just keep in mind, it is a tactic you could try out if you had Leontis nearby, and then you wanted to issue this unit in the command phase and give it +1 OC, right? Okay. So now it can capture an objective. Then it moves 8 inches and maybe it advances another D6. So you could have this thing rush up a potential 14 inches to grab an objective with 1 OC. If your opponent happens to not be on it, you have nothing else that can get up there. But with the Guard, right, you could just easily take an infantry unit, give it move, and have it advance. And it's going to be usually minimum OC2 per model. if not OC3 with a command squad, if not OC4 with your duty and honor order on it, right? If you can pull that off, then, you know, because you can, with like Creed, affect a unit with 2 orders, and there's other shenanigans like that. Or you could try to capture it with a 1 OC model. So give or take, but I've done it. I've had it come up and I've done it, and it's been a wild, wild way to score. So that's something you could do. Would I recommend planning for that? No. But if you see the opportunity arise, you could take it. So that is why many people on the internet with the Astra Militarum think the Cyclops Demolition vehicle is a bit of a hot unit. Because it's so cheap, it's so easy to hide, it's so easy to maneuver. You can put it in transport, you can put it in reserves, you could pop it out in places, you could hide it in places your opponent would not expect, and you can score points with it. Now, not objectives easily, not without Leontis, but you could score your secondary objectives and your Tyrannic War mission. So, something you could do. You could also screen out with it, right? Technically, you could pop it in just to prevent your opponent from bringing units in. That is important. I want you all to remember that too. Controlling your enemy's movement is just as important as you being able to move well. Okay, so keep that in mind. So if you're like, my opponent's just going to pop their Terminators in right over there, okay, screen them out with a Cyclops. Rush it up real quick, throw it in a position where its little 9-inch no deep strike bubble hits. Because of how wide this model is, okay, right? It's got 1.5 inches roughly, and then you add 9 inches on either side of it, right? 18, so you're looking at nearly 20-inch diameter where your opponent couldn't bring reserves in. Well, if you have 2 of these, and then you have 3 of these, and you pop them in across the board, then you're going to be able to screen out your opponent decently well. And that's something you could look at doing. And that's a great way to run this unit too, or any unit for that matter, that you may have in the guard, because we have lots of stuff that is absolutely as cheap as dirt. And that's what I often do with a lot of my units. I see those types of opportunities in the moment, and I tactically take advantage of it and do it. And this unit can allow you to do just that. So that's it for today. That's the Cyclops Demolition vehicle. There's not much else to it. It's fun. It's a cool looking model. I honestly hope, though, that GW changes the rules to the unit. I hope they make it, you know what, at this point, I hope they make it so it's more about its demolition charges ability and less about it being this weird kind of workaround for secondaries and screening and so forth. And I think that would make this unit a lot cooler for me. But I am glad it has a life currently in 10th edition Index Astra Militarum. And that's awesome. And I'll always accept that. But I would like to see this. Maybe it gets like an ability change where vehicles and fortifications especially, I get it, not very many people take them, but let's play this as it's meant to be. It's meant to destroy bastions and fortresses and stuff. That this thing deals additional mortal wounds to those types of units. And I think that would be so cool if we could get an ability change like that. All right, so that's it. I hope you all enjoyed this unit review. I hope you all have been enjoying all the unit reviews and the content I've been putting out on the channel. So please like and subscribe. I hope you all come back and participate more often. I really love when I get comments and likes and everything from you all. You all are really fantastic. And I also really appreciate it when you all point out anything I get wrong. Please keep me in check. We all know that I'm a terrible metagamer and a hard cheater. That's all a joke. If this is your first video that you're watching on my channel, I am known as the narrative player. So that's the joke behind that. But anyways, point out when I am wrong. Point out when I do get things a little off, because I'm always happy to come back and correct those things. And you all know I'm dedicated to doing that and putting out as best quality content as I can with the time that I have. So that's it for today. Please remember, have fun wargaming. And remember, Cadia stands.